All distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace and blessing of Allah be upon you all. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of the distinguished guests who have come here this evening to attend the inauguration of our mosque. And by doing so, have demonstrated their strong ties and close relations with Ahmadi Muslims. I have particularly mentioned this strong relationship because in today's world, only those who care for the feelings of others and have a strong personal connection with them would accept an invitation to a purely religious event. Thus, your attendance is extremely praiseworthy and has increased the love and respect we hold for all of you in our hearts. These are not just superficial words on my part, given as a courtesy, but rather true gratitude requires for feelings of love and respect to develop in a person's heart. Further, the religion that we Ahmadi Muslims believe in and follow, Islam, teaches us that a person cannot reach God until he displays mutual gratitude wherever it is due and becomes an exemplary model of showing thankfulness to the people of the world. Consequently, it is only possible to form a close bond with God Almighty and to please Him when we become those who please and love His creation. An ordinary worldly person does not believe that pleasing God is anything special or important, and certainly sees no need to strive or endeavor towards doing so. However, a person who believes in God Almighty and believes his religion to be a means of reaching Him will and should certainly consider pleasing God to be a very great objective based upon the teachings of his religion. This is especially true from the perspective of a true Muslim, whose purpose is and should always be to please his Creator and to become attached to Him. Thus, from the perspective of a true Muslim, my thanks is not a mere courtesy or gesture, but is actually an essential element of my faith in order to please God and to develop a close union with Him. As I have already mentioned, the overriding objective of a religious person should always be to please God. When I study the Holy Quran, which Muslims consider to be the direct word of God and the final law-bearing book, I find very beautiful guidance explaining the best ways to please God and the purpose of my creation. The Quran very clearly and repeatedly informs us that the objective and purpose of our creation is to worship Allah the Almighty. Where the worship of God has indeed been deemed a fundamental objective, it has also been clarified how such worship should be performed. I, and indeed every true Muslim, have been clearly commanded that merely physically prostrating or bowing or crossing our arms or repeating certain prescribed prayers do not fulfill the true objectives of worship. Rather, the purpose of worship can only be fulfilled when a person comes to follow and act upon all of God's commands. And God's commands entail fulfilling the rights of both God and also of His creation. In terms of God's creation, Islam does not teach us to fulfill only the rights of humans, but rather it teaches that every form of creation, including animals and birds, must be treated with love, mercy, and compassion. The truth is that Allah has directly intertwined and interwoven the rights due to Him with the rights due to mankind. This is why when we study the details of how to worship in the Holy Quran, we find that Allah the Almighty has said that a person's prayers offered in a mosque and which he tries to perform with respect and due etiquette will not be of any value and will not be accepted if alongside such worship he is or she is not fulfilling the rights of mankind. A person's prayers will not be accepted if they do not seek to help the poor and deprived. A person's prayers will not be accepted if they are not fulfilling the rights of orphans. A person's prayers will not be accepted if they are not striving to end all forms of slavery. And a person's prayers will not be accepted if they do not show mercy to one another and indeed to all forms of God's creation. Another major right taught by God is to fulfill the due rights of one's neighbors. God has clearly stated that if a person does not fulfill the rights of his neighbors, his prayers and his worship will be entirely without value or merit. Thus, these are some rights due to one another, and there are hundreds of more that have been stipulated by Allah in the Quran. And so, a person can only be considered a true Muslim when alongside his worship he fulfills the rights of mankind. A person can only be deemed a true Muslim when he seeks to remove the pain of others and to alleviate their anxieties. And a person can only be considered a true Muslim when he feels the grief of others as though it was his own personal grief. As we are aware, a person's place of worship holds a very special status in the heart of every religious person. Thus, this mosque, which has been built here in Gillingham or in this area, also holds a special status to us, and we harbor great respect and a sense of reverence towards it in our hearts. To fulfill the rights of a mosque itself has been made obligatory on all Muslims. As I said, there are two overarching rights that a Muslim has to fulfill: the rights of God and the rights of mankind. I have just outlined some of the ways in which the rights of mankind are fulfilled. Consequently, the rights of this mosque will only be fulfilled when we pay due heed to this and when all of our acts prove to be those that fulfill the rights of God's creation. As you will be aware, this mosque has been named the Nasir Mosque. And Nasir means one who helps. As such, this mosque is not only a place of worship where worshippers will come to beseech God's help, but it is also a meeting place for people who wish to serve others and to help those who are suffering and are in any kind of need. Thus, it will be a place of people together in an effort to help the poor, to help orphans, and to free people from every type of slavery once and for all. It will be place for them to join together to serve humanity and benefit mankind. And it will also be a place to fulfill the rights of the mosque's neighbors and help them. In regard to the rights owed to one's neighbors, I would like to clarify that according to the teaching of Islam, a person's neighbors have a great value and status. A neighbor is not just he who lives nearby, but in fact, all of the people who are within reach of a Muslim are deemed to be his neighbors. The rights of neighbors are so vast that a Muslim is expected to treat them in the same way that he would treat his immediate family and dearest loved ones. Also, according to Islam, the scope of a person's neighbors extends far and wide, and so our work colleagues and our travel companions are also included amongst our neighbors. Thus, it is incumbent upon a Muslim to help all the people who fall under this definition of a neighbor. And so, according to Islam, even if you come into contact with someone just once, you are duty-bound to help them if they are ever in need. This is the beautiful definition of a neighbor that Islam has provided. Furthermore, and as I have said, Islam teaches Muslims to fulfill the rights of God's creation. And so it is necessary for a Muslim to fulfill the rights of those mired in poverty and to help those who are orphaned or enslaved. Thus, that is why, for the cause of social welfare, the Ahmadiyya community has opened various hospitals, orphanages, and schools, both in Africa and in other underdeveloped parts of the world. In places where people do not have access to water, the Ahmadiyya community is devising plans and running projects to provide them with clean drinking water by installing hand pumps and other devices. Another fundamental way in which we strive to help those in need is by seeking to abolish all forms of slavery. To end or abolish slavery may perhaps seem a strange concept to you or to some of you. You may wonder who in today's world is shackled by the evil of slavery. I should therefore explain that even today there continues to be people who are enslaved, because the definition of slavery is actually very wide-ranging. For example, a person who has to take out a loan to survive, to buy food and other necessities for his family, and is subjected to interest, will find himself at the mercy of the lender for the rest of his life, as the debt continues to accumulate. In this way, the lender shackles the borrower into a desperate bond of slavery. In the third world, there are countless examples of people having to take out loans just to feed their families, and by doing so, they have automatically become slaves to their lenders and are forced to serve them for the rest of their lives. There are many people who take out loans so they can pay for the education of their children, but for whatever reason are unable to repay them, and so they too are practically enslaved in this manner. With the grace of Allah, the Ahmadiyya community is striving to help such people to the best of our abilities. Wherever possible, we try to free them from their debts and so grant them true freedom and independence. These are just a few examples at a local level that I have given. But at a national level, we also find that in today's world, certain countries are being consumed by debt and enslaved in this way. Weaker and poor countries are preyed upon by the powerful nations who give them loans with strings attached. In this way, the poorer nations are becoming indebted to the lender, and as a result, they are forced to follow their policies. Invariably, the policies dictated are not in the interest of the vulnerable country, but serve only the interest of the powerful and rich lender. In the long term, such unjust policies can never give rise to peace, but will rather be a cause of deepening resentment and frustrations. Thus, rather than take advantage of the weak and vulnerable, and all parties should seek to educate them and try to help them stand upon their own 2 feet with dignity and honor and free them from all forms of slavery. At present, the Ahmadiyya community does not have the resources to free those nations which are consumed by debt and who, as a result, have found themselves practically enslaved by the richer countries and forced to follow their policies. But certainly, we do attempt to make major nations and organizations realize that they must allow every individual and every nation to enjoy the right to live with liberty and freedom, and the key to this lies in the establishment of justice and equality. Furthermore, we also find another form of slavery that exists in today's world, and that is in relation to the world's natural resources. Due to a lack of technical expertise or knowledge, some countries are unable to successfully tap their own natural resources, and no powerful nations take advantage of these circumstances. And so, powerful nations take advantage of these circumstances, whilst they may offer to extract the resources or to provide the weaker nation with the necessary technology to do so. They also take advantage of the vulnerability of the weaker party by placing onerous conditions and making unjust deals. The end result is that the country which has ownership of those natural resources receives far less benefit than the powerful country extracting the resources. As I said, this too is another type of slavery and bondage, and so every educated person should unite against this. Only if we make such a stand will the developing countries be able to stand on their own 2 feet and independently run their affairs. Bearing all of this in mind, I should make it clear that whilst on the one hand, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community propagates the true teachings of Islam in the world and builds mosques for its followers, it also draws the attention of the world towards fulfilling the rights of humanity. We draw the attention of the world towards justice and equality at all levels. We draw the attention of the world towards peace and prosperity. Also, I should make it clear that the way we draw people's attention and the way we raise these issues is always done in an entirely peaceful and law-abiding manner. Indeed, it is essential for a true Muslim to forever uphold and honor his country's laws, because this is a compulsory part of our faith. To respect the laws of the country is sign of our love and loyalty to our nation. As the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him, taught that holding sincere sentiments of love and loyalty to your country is an essential part of faith. Thus, there is no question of a true Muslim ever breaking the law, because by breaking the law, he is acting against the state. And by acting against the state, he proves that he does not love his nation. And if he does not love his nation, he has no faith, and consequently, he is not a true Muslim. And so, this mosque that is being inaugurated today will be filled by those people who will not only fulfill the rights of God, but will also be those who hold a passionate desire to serve humanity. It will be filled by those people who care for the poor and destitute. It will be filled by those people who seek to help the weak and vulnerable. It will be filled by those people who love and support children who have been left orphaned and bereaved. This mosque will be filled by those people who will pay attention to the well-being, health, and educational needs of all those in any kind of need or who are vulnerable in any way. The people who enter this mosque will also be those who fulfill the rights of their neighbors and will advocate the establishment of justice and freeing the world from all forms of slavery. And it will be filled by those people who will happily sacrifice their wealth and time to fulfill these due rights of others. This is the reason the Ahmadiyya Muslim community raises its voice loud and clear, calling for justice at all levels so that the peace and security of the world may be secured and personal enmities, grievances, and distances can all be transformed into a close bond of mutual love. I have no doubt that you will come to see that, God willing, the worshippers of this mosque will prove all of that, of what I have said, to be true. Only a call to serve humanity and of love and affection will echo far and wide from this mosque. What I am saying are not just mere words, but wherever in the world the Ahmadiyya community has built mosques, the local people have very soon come to realize that alongside the construction of the mosque, our community makes every possible effort to serve humanity and to promote social welfare. Due to the fact that we are a Muslim community, there may even be people here today who hold certain concerns or reservations about us. However, God willing, this will also soon come to they will also soon come to realize that even more than before, the people that enter this mosque will be those who fulfill the rights of their neighbors. They will be those who consider the joy of their neighbors to be their own happiness, and who consider the pain of their neighbors to be their own grief. I am certain all our neighbors will come to witness this, and it will prove to be an everlasting reality. I am also certain that you will all come to witness and testify to the truth that wherever and whenever we are called to serve humanity, we will be at the forefront and ever ready to serve. The past history of our community attests to the fact that we do not only run and support our own charity organizations, but rather whenever any other charity or group seeks our help, we immediately extend our assistance and support to them. To give just one recent example, As you are all aware, over the past few weeks, flooding and heavy rain has engulfed this country and caused misery and loss to so many people. In response, our own Ahmadi Muslim youth volunteers have reached out to the afflicted areas and have worked with government teams and the local authorities to help those in urgent need. In conclusion, I will repeat that this mosque will not be one that proves to be a cause of concern or fear for the local people, but rather this mosque will prove to be one filled with people who will always be ready to serve and help all of you. This mosque will be a beacon of light that illuminates its surroundings and be known as a symbol of peace, harmony, and justice for all. With these few words, I would end by once again thanking you all for attending this event this evening and listening to what I have said. Thank you very much.